Hello and welcome to this week's Culture Review. This week we're going to be looking at the French government's decision to screen the British drama Adolescence as it attempts to fight the negative effects of social media. David, for people who've not had a chance to see or haven't heard of Adolescence, this big hit on British screens, it's having an effect beyond its borders. What's it about?
Well, it's a four-part mini-series which premiered on Netflix in March, and it centres around a 13-year-old schoolboy, Jamie, who is arrested after the stabbing and death of a girl in his school. And it's created by Jack Thorne and directed by Philip Barantini and originally conceived by Stephen Graham, who plays the child's father in the series. And it was created as a response to the escalating numbers in knife crime amongst teenagers in the UK. It's not based on a particular case, a true story, but Jack Thorne, the screenwriter, has said that in creating this show, the aim was to look in the eye of modern male rage and examine the influence that online figures like Andrew Tate, for example, can have on impressionable young minds.
Police! What are you looking for? You're making a big mistake. And he's only a kid.
Dad, I haven't done anything.
For anyone who hasn't yet had the displeasure of being aware of Andrew Tate, he has been described as the king of toxic masculinity and for promoting the manosphere.
Okay, what exactly is the manosphere?
Well, it's a collection of websites, blogs and forums which promote misogyny and anti-feminist values, and it's been blamed for the indoctrination of young minds into these misogynistic beliefs and these beliefs that flirt with ultra-conservative values and far-right ideologies. And coming back to Adolescence, it's received overwhelming critical acclaim. It is genuinely one of the best shows that I personally have seen this year. And not just because of its style, because each episode is filmed in one continuous take, but also because of the performances, which are breathtaking. Stephen Graham, Erin Doherty, but also Owen Cooper, who plays the young Jamie, who is mind-blowing in this show, but also because it addresses its themes in such a shrewd and sensitive way, an incredibly potent manner. And it has become essentially this cultural, social, and indeed political wake-up call.
Indeed. Well, tell us more about the political reaction, because I understand now that Britain also has taken the decision to show it in schools.
Absolutely. So the political impact started really with Annalise Midgley, a member of Parliament in the UK, who called for the show to be screened in schools, and Prime Minister Keir Starmer backed that call. He even posted a tweet saying, "As a father, watching Adolescence with my teenage son and daughter hit home hard." And so now the show is being screened for free to students in the UK, and now France is following suit. This week, Minister of Education Elisabeth Borne stated that they've received the rights in order to screen the show in secondary schools and upwards in France. And in doing so, she said that the show is very representative of the violence that can exist among young people, and that the aim is to raise awareness of the exposure to screens and the trivialization of violence that can occur online. Now, it's really worth putting this into context, because the discussion surrounding knife crime and social media and the pitfalls of social media have escalated since the release of Adolescence, but also since a 16-year-old stabbed one of his classmates in Nantes in April. And tragically this week we learned of a 14-year-old boy who stabbed to death a 31-year-old member of staff in a school near Dijon.
Indeed, we don't know exactly, we should put a caveat that we don't know what the perpetrator of that crime actually saw on social media, but for sure knife crime. We're used to seeing these headlines from the UK press. We've spoken in the past about Idris Elba and his campaign against knife crime. It's been a scourge across the UK for several years now. But this is quite a significant action for France to take this decision to screen a British show.
You're absolutely right. The thing is that these events of senseless violence are very rare in France, but at the moment there is a growing concern about violence on campus. Now, the Ministry of Education has already introduced bag checks earlier on this year, and the Interior Ministry has stated that officials have confiscated 186 knives only in the last 2 months. So it is a very, very pressing issue.
Well, tell us more about some of the other reactions there have been, perhaps in France, to this decision, this landmark decision to screen this British drama.
Well, in France, for the time being, the reaction to screen Adolescence in school has been overwhelmingly positive. But we did see reactions in the UK, for instance, that were a little bit more negative. For example, former Prime Minister Boris Johnson wrote a piece in the Daily Mail saying that he didn't see the good in the initiative and that he saw Adolescence, and I quote, as being tosh. I'm quoting him: "In making this announcement with full prime ministerial authority amid the ancient solemnity of the cabinet room, Keir Starmer has perfectly encapsulated the fundamental flatulence of the government and its finger-wagging mixture of humbug and wokery." So that take didn't go down too well, as you can imagine, and has been described as being slightly out of touch by many people on social media. And Boris Johnson also introduced race into the argument, writing that unlike the teenage couple in this drama, victims and perpetrators are also disproportionately young black males. So Jack Thorne, the screenwriter and co-creator of Adolescence, has said that this theory is absurd and that the goal of the show was not to talk about race and not make a point about race, but to make a point about masculinity.
Yeah, those sentiments have also been shared by Stephen Graham, David, because he said this isn't at all about race. It's about telling working class stories which affect millions of people.
Absolutely. And now with France following the British example by screening Adolescence in schools, it could be a very heartening sign that further European countries could also follow suit. Now, Emmanuel Macron this week has stated that France could ban social media for under 15-year-olds should the EU fail to act. But this screening of Adolescence in secondary school is a positive sign because there are untapped resources here. Films like TV shows like Adolescence generate empathy, they enliven and empower consciousness, and there could be also a case to be made for showing more films and more TV shows that deal with the pitfalls of social media and toxic masculinity. With regards to social media, I'm thinking 2015's Unfriended, for example, which takes a supernatural take on the dangers of social media, but it could be a valuable resource. There's also the American docudrama The Social Dilemma, Cyberbully, or documentaries like Catfish or The Great Hack. Obviously, these explore diverse avenues with regards to social media, but because social media platforms are an unescapable fact nowadays, it's important to address it head on and to realize that minds need to be open and that young minds need to be aware that what goes on screens, what is shown to them, has to be taken with criticism and with, again, an open mind so that senseless crimes like the ones that occurred in France this week can be avoided in the future.
David, thank you for taking us through that, and thank you for joining us. You can read a lot more about this subject as well as our reviews on Adolescence on our website. Thanks for joining us.